start us out, Roger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for accommodating our schedule this afternoon. I am here at this moment to talk about S518, which deals with sewer systems that serve fewer than 10,000 people. And frankly, in the United States of America, some 80% of public sewer systems are in that category. Many of these small communities often face significant challenges in complying with federal rules, and of course, it's also costly. S518 provides some relief in the form of technical assistance and training to assist small communities in securing the necessary technical expertise to improve and protect their water resources. Specifically under my legislation, the EPA administrator would have authority to direct funding to nonprofit organizations to provide on-site assistance, regional training, assistance with implementation of monitoring plans, rules, and regulations to ensure compliance with the Clean Water Act. I might mention to my colleagues that a similar initiative has already been in effect with regard to effective implementation of the Safe Drinking Water Act. So this would add the Clean Water Act to that. I believe this program would share the same success for rural community wastewater systems. The bill would also do one other thing. It would allow states to use up to 2% of their Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund for technical assistance for these small systems. My appreciation goes out to our colleague, Senator Heitkamp, for being the lead Democrat on this bill, and to members of this committee, Barrasso, Bozeman, and Capito, for also signing on as co-sponsors. There's a great need for this, and I urge its adoption at the appropriate time and thank my colleagues for their attention.
Thank you very much for your testimony. And I didn't go to school with him, but I do want to especially thank Dennis Sternberg for being here from Greenbrier, Arkansas. I've had the opportunity to work with him for the last several years, and he does a tremendous job. As of January 2017, Mr. Sternberg has spent 38 years in the water and wastewater industry in Arkansas. 29 of those years spent working in almost all field positions as a field rep, EPA program manager, USDA circuit rider, and wastewater technician trainer. He and his Rural Water Association staff are committed to the future of rural communities by assisting utilities throughout the state with their many challenges that rural small utilities continue to face. He holds the highest in water and wastewater licenses in Arkansas. In 2006, he received the Executive Director of the Year Award from the National Rural Association. And in 2009, the United States Department of Agriculture National Rural Water Association recognized Dennis for leadership in emergency response preparation. So thank you for many, many years of service to the people of Arkansas. And now you can give your testimony.
Thank you, Senator. Good afternoon, Chairman Bozeman and members of the committee. It's an honor to be here, and we are grateful that you have included a voice of rural America at this hearing. My name is Dennis Sternberg, and I'm the Executive Director of Arkansas Rural Water Association, a nonprofit association of 563 small and rural community water utilities in Arkansas. I'm also a representative of the National Rural Water Association, which has over 31,000 community members. Our mission is to enhance the water service, safety, compliance, and quality in small and rural America. My main message to the committee today is that the small and rural communities in all states strongly support S518, the Small and Rural Community Clean Water Technical Assistance Act. And we urge the committee and the Senate to pass it as soon as possible to help small communities with the operation of their wastewater utilities and compliance with the federal regulations of the Clean Water Act. We are very appreciative of Senator Wicker and Heitkamp's sponsorship of the bill, and I will explain why this legislation is helpful and merits enactment. Most all of the country's sewer systems or wastewater utilities are small. Approximately 80% of the country's 16,000 wastewater utilities serve a population fewer than 10,000. In Arkansas, for example, approximately 340 of the 370 community wastewater utilities serve small communities. In Illinois, it's approximately 700 of the 800. In Maryland, it's 130 of the 170. And in Mississippi, it's approximately 270 of the 300. Small and rural communities have more difficulty affording public wastewater service due to the lack of population density and lack of economies of scales. This challenge is compounded by the fact that rural communities have lower average medium household incomes and often have higher rates of poverty. Likewise, we have a much more challenging time complying with the Federal Clean Water Act, the permits and operating complex wastewater treatment systems due to the lack of technical resources in small communities. While we have fewer resources, we are regulated in the exact same manner as a large community. S518 provides a solution to the lack of technical resources in small communities by providing technical experts, we call them circuit riders, in each state to be shared by all small rural communities who are in need of assistance. The circuit rider is a person with expertise in wastewater treatment, operation, maintenance, governance, and compliance who constantly travels the state to be available on site to any community in need of assistance. For these circuit riders to be effective and helpful, they must be available to travel directly to any community to work specifically with the community's leaders with their unique treatment and personally educate that operator, mayor, or other local officials on how to solve their problems. They have to be available when the community needs them to help with, which could happen at nights, winters, after natural disasters, weekends. Also, they must be non-regulatory to gain the trust of the local communities. The small town of Kensett, Arkansas, provides a good recent example of technical assistance. Last year, Kensett Waterworks called for help with their sewer system concerning a problem with their activated sludge plant. The plant had suddenly become upset and were out of compliance. A rural water circuit rider was dispatched and traveled to the community and inspected the plant and their records and noticed a decline in the sample results over a 4-month period. The circuit rider disassembled the activated sludge return pump and lines to clean them and found the cause of the problem. The line had been blocked with biological growth. After clearing the lines and pumps, the circuit rider recommended they feed some artificial enzymes and some food supplements to try to jumpstart the recovery of the activated sludge plant. In addition to providing the technical solution to their problem, this assistance saved the community approximately $1,000 per day in potential fines. If enacted and appropriated, S518 would allow for thousands of similar assistance events each year throughout the nation. Senator Wicker had a similar bill passed about a year ago to provide small communities with circuit rider assistance for the Safe Drinking Water Act and water treatment utilities. However, we have not been able to have that legislation, Public Law 114-98, specifically cited in EPA's appropriations bill, which is preventing that technical assistance funding from reaching rural Arkansas, Mississippi, Illinois, Maryland, and other states. Any assistance you can provide to correct these issues with EPA Appropriations Subcommittee is greatly appreciated. This committee is very important to rural and small town America. We're grateful for the opportunity to testify today and grateful for the numerous opportunities this committee has provided rural America to testify and be included in crafting of the federal water and environmental legislation. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank
Mr. Sternberg, I understand that the Trump administration has promised eliminating a key program for rural communities, the USDA's Water and Waste Disposal Loan and Grant Program. I have 776 small and rural communities throughout my state that serve 1.4 million customers. I'm hearing from them that without this program, their ability to guarantee public sewer and wastewater systems will be impaired. Can you share with me how important a program like the Water and Waste Disposal Loan Grant Program is to small and rural communities?
Thank you, Senator. That's a very good question. And it's the same thing in Arkansas. You know, we have 700 community water systems, 370 wastewater systems. The majority of the systems in Arkansas and most states are that 31,000 community water systems that represent national rural water across the nation. Small rural communities go to the USDA Loan and Grant Program for their improvements or upgrades. That's been happening for over 70 years. That's the best program out there. It doesn't cost the federal government anything because they pay back. They have less than 0.5% delinquency rate. That type of program we need. That's infrastructure that we're going to continually need. For that system to go out on the private market is not going to be the same cost back to the ratepayers. It'll be absorbent. There's only so much money in the SRF, State Revolving Loan Fund. In Arkansas, the majority of the larger systems are accessing that. So the competition is going to be greater.
So am I correct in saying that the bills that we're talking about today might be supplemental, but certainly cannot take over the function of this program?
Oh, exactly. No.
Thank you. So, can you share with me why technical assistance is also very important to rural communities and how technical assistance authorized in the Wicker Bill would work in partnership with other programs?
You bet. The technical assistance for the small and rural communities, the 10,000 population and under, they're the ones that don't have the expertise, like the Little Rocks, the Jonesboroughs, where they have engineers and chemists and different ones available, and licensed operator at the highest level to troubleshoot those type of things. They rely on rural water. Rural water has these technicians out there right now through USDA. We have some contracts through EPA, and we have some through our state SRF on the drinking water side, but they're designated to certain systems. There will be no duplication, and it's needed, drastically needed. There's more and more. We train more water and wastewater operators in the state of Arkansas than any other agency, including the primacy agency.
My goodness, thank you.
Go ahead. I just say, Senator, as far as rural and small communities, that's why it's so important what Senator Duckworth brought up about the USDA loan and grant program. If it goes away, water rates will go up in rural America and small. There's no way around it. And you hit on the larger systems having the same issue. I think Congress is doing something, starting something with the WIFIA program, funding some of that for the larger utilities. I think that's great. But you're right. You got to be. We're going to have to be more inventive on how we go about doing things like that. But the USDA loan and grant program for infrastructure is vital. It's got to be put back in place.
I strongly support WIFIA. It was an initiative came out of this committee, and I support it. It doesn't take away, though, the need for us to have the basic partnership programs that help in regards to water infrastructure.
Let me just ask Mr. Sternberg a couple just quick questions. Can you explain to the committee why circuit riders that actually come to your community are more effective in providing technical assistance than other approaches like webinars? And in follow-up, has EPA shifted support for rural technical assistance away from the circuit riders in your experience?
Well, the first part of it is the reason for the circuit riders and the need to go to the local communities versus the webinars. You're one-on-one with that operator, that mayor, and that council. You can show them their actual problem with their system. In a classroom or a webinar, you're just seeing different portions and functions of treatment plants, and there's no trust there. You're just reading something, hearing something. When you're with those circuit riders are there, you build that bond, that trust. And the next issue comes up along with that utility, they'll call them, and they'll call them quickly. That's the reason for the circuit riders, and you share that cost across all the small and rural communities. It's not just one engineer coming out there that costs that system to come up with a solution to it. So that's where the circuit riders are so vital to all this project. As far as the EPA, we have lost funding through EPA on our water technicians. Back in 2009, we had a groundwater technician fully funded, and that runs about $110,000 a year, I think it was. To now, our trainer that was fully funded back then, we're subsidizing that by about 45%. We don't get the money from them because they've spread the cost out to the webinars, to different things like that. There's nobody going on site like the circuit riders. That's where it happens. The rubber meets the road. I mean, that's where it's at.
You mentioned in your testimony about the circuit riders providing emergency response. Can you give some examples of that, and is anyone else out there providing that type of assistance?
In Arkansas, we're very proud of what we do in Arkansas Rural Water. We actually have 7 big mobile generators we can deploy. Example would be April the 27th, my birthday in 2014, the tornadoes come through, hit Mayflower, Arkansas, hit Valonia, Arkansas. It was an F4, demolished the towns, both communities. I wasn't actually in state at the time. My staff called me. I said, deploy whatever assistance they need, find out and identify what they need. Within 24 hours, we had every water system, the two water and wastewater system in Mayflower, the water and wastewater system in Valonia, up and running. We had no SOS or SSO, sanitary sewer overflows on the sewer system. We have 4 mobile generators, small generators that we use VFDs for, that we can actually run 3-phase motors. So we use them on the sewer lift stations. We had them on trucks and the back of pickup trucks, moved them around station to station, hardwired them, pumped all the sewer down, so we never had no overflows. And we continually had them making the rounds there. So, I mean, the emergency response is very beneficial to the utilities, and we're the first call. They don't call Adam. They don't call the health department. They don't call ADEQ. They call Arkansas Rural Water, and it works.
To Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had one final question. I wanted to ask Mr. Sternberg to elaborate a little bit on how the circuit riders perform in emergency situation. Kind of elaborate on what we talked about just now, but in terms of helping, do they or do they not help with coordinating with local agencies and other federal agencies in the event of an emergency? How does that get integrated together, and how do you see that happening on the ground when there's an emergency and you have to respond, and you've got all different levels of government and also both vertical and horizontal?
I can give you the example in Mayflower and Bologna. We're recognized as one of the emergency responders. We work with Adam. We work with Arkansas Department of Health on all public water systems. The first call we have, if we get a call from a water system with an emergency, we contact the health department, make sure they're aware of it. They ask us to provide reports back to them of our findings. They know we're going to be deployed. My field staff is in the field anyway, and they live all across the state. So normally I have somebody that can get there within an hour and a half, just because of where my staff live. But we work with all the local agencies. When we come there to the city of Mayflower, we checked in with the city of Mayflower. They're the ones that requested us there. So when they've requested us, we've come with all our equipment and our manpower. But we have the county, the OES officer, Office of Emergency Services officer there. They contact and stay in communications with the Adam at the state office. We stay in communication with the health department. If they get any requests through Adam, it goes to the health department, and then it comes to rural water. And we're part of ARWARN, Arkansas Water Agency Response Network. So we work very closely with them. There's no duplication of what we're doing. So it works very well. So they're part of your team. You talked about how it's so important to have a person that's there on the ground that that and trust. Do you do emergency training programs when it comes to water response, emergency responses and that sort of thing? Is that something on an annual basis with all the different agencies, along with the circuit riders? Is that being done? Yeah, actually, I am on the national level.
You're a busy man.
I know. I've got too many titles. I'm the chairman of the National Rural Water Association Emergency Response Committee. We meet at least twice a year, but we do a 1-week training somewhere located throughout the nation. This year we're going to Florida. Last year we was in Louisiana, and the 3 years prior to that we did it in Lone Oak, Arkansas. So we've moved around different places, invited the other state circuit riders to come in to be trained, to continually update them on new things out there. So it's continuation of that work. In state, my staff is all trained on it. Every month they come in, they're assigned different duties to check out the generators, make sure they're maintained, making sure the load bank has been done on them. So we actually load bank those generators, so we know that even if the motor's running on that generator, that doesn't mean that generator's putting out power. All our generators have multi-voltage selector switches on them, so when we pull up on site, it doesn't matter what voltage that system has. We can set it and forget it and go with it. We did it for a reason that way.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're back, Mr. Chairman.